Hello everybody, welcome guys to LSBF TV, which is dedicated to you AAT students who are preparing for your level 2, level 3 and level 4 exams of your AAT qualification. As you probably are aware, every Friday we are here for you broadcasting live from our London studios, and what we are trying to help you with is pick up the technique that you really need to be able more easily to answer the questions in your assessment, to pick up more marks during the day, and of course to come out of the exam hall feeling really happy because you would have passed using the confidence that we would help you build. So thank you for watching this here today. My name is Brigitte. I'm one of the LSBF tutors, and I will be taking you in this half an hour through an assessment task on the subject of level 4 called Cash and Treasury Management. And I would welcome any questions you guys might have during the session, so please feel free to type them up in the chat and I would be delighted to answer them. If you need any assistance, if you have no questions, feel free to say anything you like hi and thank you and bye. But I do hope you will enjoy the class and you would find working through this assessment task quite useful. The assessment task comes from the AAT website itself. It's part of the AAT practice assessment that has been published for you guys to work and gain more confidence. So let's just get started. Here is our task. Yes, for anyone who's wondering which subject this is, well, I'm just going to remind you the subject is called Cash and Treasury Management, just in case you have missed the first minute of the class, okay? So we're doing assessment task on unit Cash and Treasury Management, and this assessment task number 2, as we will see in a little bit when we look at the requirements, is one which focuses on your ability to forecast. So that is quite an important ability, as we would all agree, being able to forecast things such as required volumes of a product, things such as selling price and whatever else. So we're going to be using some forecasting techniques here, such as regression line. You might in the assessment have to use moving averages and things like it. We're going to use also some basic knowledge, such as the knowledge of markup and margin when it comes to setting up a selling price. So yes, a lot of fun ahead of us. Let's look at the requirements and find out what exactly we have to do in this assessment task. What have we got here, okay? Well, notice the task has more than one requirement. Have you seen that? Yes? So this is the first bit of technique I would like to give you, my friends, and that is when you look at the task, don't feel that necessarily you have to start by answering the question in the order that the tasks which are part of it appear. So don't feel that necessarily you have to do part A first, then part B, then part C, and so on. Because really, sometimes you might have a question part that comes later in the question, which is actually an easier part compared to the ones you see first. And if you really want to become a little bit more efficient in the exam, which means to be able to easily score more marks within the time you have, a very good idea is to do the parts of the question which are the easiest ones before any difficult ones. Yes? So really, what would be good to do when you see a task which is long and has more than one requirement is to scan the requirements and try to decide which one you like best. So you can start with this one, because if you really like this requirement, if it's an easy one, you can quickly get it right and score some marks, which will of course increase your confidence there on the day, the moment you're doing it, and that would make you better able to cope with the harder requirements that you see later on inside the same task. Same goes, of course, for the whole assessment, because you would be having an assessment with many tasks, like 8 tasks or something. Don't feel that you have to do task 1 first, task 1 second, and so on. The easiest things first. This is my rule of thumb for all of you. Having been a student myself, guys, I can tell you from experience, this technique makes such a big difference to your performance. So get used to doing the easiest things before any hard ones. So if you see something that you don't like, skip it, do the things that you like, and come back to the difficult ones later on if you have time, okay? So let's have a look. Task 2. I'm ignoring the story for now, just I want to find out what the requirement says. And it goes, what is the sales price of product A? Okay, interesting thing. We need to calculate sales price and the product we have is called A. That shouldn't be too hard, should it? But let's have a look at the rest of the requirements. We've got here product B, and then we are told that we need to find out the sales price of product B as well. So more pricing here. Doesn't look too bad. I didn't mean to read the story, but I've noticed already for product B, we're looking for a technique that uses sales margin. And did you notice for product A, we are looking to use, that's what the requirement wants, the technique for price setting called markup. Okay, markup and margin, hopefully these being the simple ones you need to deal with, you find easy enough to begin with, but let's have a look and see what else is in store for us. So part C says, what is the forecast sales volume of product A in period 12? Okay, interesting thing. Okay, you think we need to get the selling price. Fine. Here we need to get the number of units, and you might have noticed that to get the number of units we are given this bit here, which is the regression line, the equation of a straight line, which, as you hopefully know, we use for forecasting purposes. Well, that should be easy as well, shouldn't it? In fact, it should be so simple that you might be tempted to start with this one, I don't know. But then let's have a look at part D, find out if it's not any easier. Part D says, what sales volume of product B would they need to sell in order to achieve this? To achieve what? Well, we are told now the company wants the sales revenue for product B in period 12 to match the predicted for product A. Oh, but wait a second. To be able to do part D, we need to have done part C first, don't we? Because we need to know what revenue is required for product A and then calculate the number of units for product B. If we don't know the answer to part C, the sales volume for product A, we can't really we are not able really to get the rest done, can we? So let's have a look, okay? If that is the case, I know, as I said, you might want to do part C first, or you might want to just get going with parts A and B, because they're both for setting a selling price using two different methods, markup and margin, and hopefully we know that one of these methods is so easy to do. It's a piece of cake, and that is the profit markup, isn't it? So let's deal with this task first of all. We're told product A costs 49, okay? I'm going to call this 49 the cost of the product. So this is the cost. I'll call it C for short, if you don't mind, okay? And then we are told that the company is setting sales price with the markup, so that would be the profit, and the markup is 20%. Fine, I'm going to call this 20% the profit. There you go, profit, P for short. Okay, and we are looking to get the sales price. So selling price, SP, that's what we need to find out how much it should be. Well, how do we do it then? Using the markup method. How about I give you a little reminder, just in case there is somebody here watching not sure how to use profit markup and profit margin. So to set selling price, okay, we've got setting up sales price methods. And yes, we've got the first one, but let me do it right here. The first one, which is called markup. So what is important about using this method? Well, remember, at all situations when we're setting a selling price, we know that the selling price is the sum of the cost and the profit that the company wants to make. So starting with this basic idea that cost plus profit equals selling price, what we can say is that when we're using the markup method of setting a selling price up, we always refer to the cost as being 100%. So the cost will always be 100%, and the profit would be some percentage that comes from the question. Okay, and that of course means that the selling price will always be, in terms of percentages, something more than 100%. Okay, so that would be greater than 100%. And the thing that is very important for this pricing method is that when we say that the profit is percentage of, which is percentage from the question, Q, that means the question, this percentage is a percentage of the cost. Okay, so percentage of the cost. And that means, of course, if we want to transform this equation then using markup, what we can say then is to calculate the selling price, we can take the following. Let's do it, come on. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say cost plus profit equals selling price, basic idea, yes, and then the cost being 100% plus the profit being whatever percentage. So what percentage did we have here? Let's have a look in our question. Was it 20%? That's what I seem to remember. 20% profit, we were told, was 20%. There you go, on the cost. So let's go back here. Profit is 20% of cost. I know we don't know how much the cost, well, we do know how much the cost is, but we will use it in a bit, okay? What I'm trying to tell you is that we have the cost being 100%, the profit being 20% of the cost, and the selling price, of course, is 120% of the cost as well. So from here, to be able to calculate then the selling price, there you go, all we have to do is replace with the numbers, okay? So selling price, we can say SP is equal to 120% of the cost, which I hope everybody remembers was 49. Do you guys remember up here? 49, that is the cost, okay? So let's replace it. So selling price is 120% of £49. Now let's have a look. Did anybody already calculate this answer? How much is the selling price? Remember, you just have to multiply 49 by 1.2, don't you? 1.2 times 49. How much is this? Well, I think it comes up to, see? Yes, it comes up to 58.8, doesn't it? So selling price should be £58.80. Wonderful. Okay, now we can go back and we can put it in our little box. Okay, let's type it up here. We've already got 2 marks and that wasn't difficult. Now with product B then, the next part. Product B also costs £49. Well, wonderful. If it costs £49, what does that mean to us? We can call this C again, there you go, the cost, and the profit margin is also 20%. So you might think, but how do we do it differently when the numbers are the same? But wait a second, let me remind you about the difference when we're using this method. So we've already dealt with markup. Now let's deal with the method called margin. Okay, when we're setting selling price up using sales margin, what we're saying is, again, we use the same idea that we've got cost plus profit equals the selling price, of course. But what we say in this situation is something slightly different, because here, can you guys see? Yeah, I hope you can see all very well. With sales margin, what we say then is that the selling price is the thing that is 100%, okay? So it's not the cost like the rule of thumb we had earlier. Here we treat the selling price as being 100%. Of course, we have the profit as something being from the question, given in the question like it is given here, and the cost would be the difference between the selling price and the profit, okay? So there you go, I'll say something like this. Cost is the difference between SP and P. P is from the question, given to us, and selling price is, as I said, always 100%. Okay, there you go. That's what we can use to guide us, all right? So notice with the previous one, it's the cost which is always 100% with markup. With margin, it's the price which is 100%. And therefore, the profit which is given from the question is a percentage that is not of cost, it's a percentage of the selling price. Okay, there you go. So how do we then transform this in our question? If we have this knowledge, how can we use it? Well, let's have a look. We're going to start with this idea, cost plus profit equals selling price. Well, let's do that. Okay, cost plus profit equals selling price. And we're going to look at percentages first. Shall we do that? So let's look at the percentage side. What we said already was that selling price was always 100%, right? So let's say this is 100%. Profit was given as 20, wasn't it? So let's add this 20% here, okay? And of course, what does that tell you, my friends, about the cost percentage? If sales price is 100 and profit is 20, then clearly the cost percentage must be the difference, 80%, yes? There you go. So you always work it out like that. And once you're ready with this, then you fill in underneath the values that you've got. So in terms of pounds, we were already told that the cost was 49, yes? Well, that's all we know, isn't it? And what we are looking for now is to find out what the selling price is. So going through like this equals something, okay? How do we find out what this should equal to? Well, I have a little tip here. There is a long way you can take in order to be able to calculate it, but why should you take the long way when there is always a shortcut for that? So if you want to get this number here, one trick you can do is look at the numbers in the cost column and just take the figures, ignoring percentages or anything. Take the bottom number first, then take the top number second, and here what you want to do is divide bottom by top. And then because this is the number you're trying to find, isn't it? Then you have to multiply it by whatever number you've got above, which in profit margin, of course, it would always be 100, okay? So to get the selling price quickly, we look at what we've put down in the cost column, bottom divided by top, whatever the numbers are, and multiplied by the 100. So let's see what this comes up to. You can tell me if you've got it calculated already. Just let's have a little race and see who gets it right first. Okay, times 100. Well, if I'm right, which I always am, I can tell you that this is now 61.25 pounds, isn't it? There you go. And now we've used it. We've used sales margin. We've got the answer right, 61.25. We can put this one in our little box here. We've got 4 marks already, and we are halfway through. Sounds exciting, doesn't it? Now, please, guys, feel free to use that technique, okay, for profit margin, because with cost markup, as you know, it's just the percentage times the cost, whatever. But here with profit margin, it can be a little bit fiddly, and this, I think, is the quickest way to do it. Always fill them in as percentages and values, take the number at the bottom, divide by the number on top, and always multiply by 100 to find the selling price. That should work, trust me. Try it on other examples and let me know if you think you have problems, but you shouldn't. Now let's see what other things we had. Did we have the equation of straight line in part C? So we're told the sales volume of product A in period 2 is forecast for 85,000, okay, using the regression line, whatever. And to be fair, this totally doesn't matter to us because we're looking for the sales forecast volume of product A in period 12. So before we do it, let's remind ourselves of the meaning of this regression line, how we can use it for forecasting. Do you all remember that? Yes, we've got here 75,000 and 5,000, which are, we refer to them normally as the constants, and what we call them, do you guys remember what we call them? We call them, in fact, I'll just write them here. So we call them A and B. And we call them constants because when we use the equation of a straight line, they never change. We always keep them the same for forecasting purposes. Okay? So these figures will always be the same, A and B. The ones which vary, the variables are X and Y. And what we've got here is X is the number of time periods. So we are told here, the question says X is the time period. So what we can say is, how about we mark this X as T, like time. Yes, X is the time. And Y is obviously what we are trying to find, and that is the number of units, the volume. There you go, units. I'll call them U, like this. Okay, so we've got the time, that changes, and based on that, we change the units. So to get our forecast correct here, we just have to look at that equation and to find Y, because this is what we're looking for. The question says, what is the forecast sales volume? So we need to find out how many units the company needs to make. Units equal how much? Well, of course, we need to look at what time period X is, what time period we're trying to find this for. And the question says period is 12. So T, which is equal to X in our equation, is equal to 12. So we really just have to replace these things in the formula and we should get our answer. So if Y, which is the units, isn't it? Y is the units. If that equals 75,000, remember the constants, they never change, plus the 5,000, never changing. And this has to be multiplied by X. And remember, for us, X is the time, isn't it? Now, replacing the numbers, what do we get? Well, Y, yes, Y is Y, it's the number of units, equals 75,000. Come on, guys, you can do the calculation and let me know in the chat if you got the answer already, while I'm typing it up for you. So we're going to multiply 5,000 by what number? Did you all say 12? Yes, if you said 12, well, that's fantastic. This is exactly what we're going to multiply by. So by 12, and how many units is that? Oh, yes, fantastic, Jimmy. Yes, 135,000 units. That is what Y comes up to. So there you go. We can now fill it in our box. And notice, this should have been an easy one. Always replace X with your time period, and that's it. You're sorted. Now we are told in the last part that the company wants the sales revenue for product B in period 12 to match the predicted revenue for product A. And okay, now if that's the case, what do we do here? To find out what sales revenue of product B they need to make, we need to know what sales revenue they would have generated from product A. And then having got the sales revenue from that, we can then calculate the number of units, the sales volume of product B. So really, if we're looking for the sales volume, we have to remember the basic idea that the sales volume, the number of units, or if you wish, shall we look at the basic idea? I'm going to use green, by the way, because we're talking about product B, okay? The basic idea for sales revenue, to calculate sales revenue, basically, we just take the number of units, and we multiply the number of units by their selling price. That's how we get the sales revenue. That is the simplest possible idea on earth. Okay, so for that we need to find out first of all the revenue for A. Let's do this. So product A revenue. And for period 12, we already know how many units they're going to make, 135,000. I hope you noticed this. So 135,000 units, that's from part B, sorry, part C I meant, okay? But notice we need also the selling price which we calculated in part B. And in part B, no, sorry, we're looking at product A, aren't we? So in part A, the sales price we calculated was 58.3 8. So be careful in the pressure in the exam to not pick up the wrong number. If you're talking about product A, pick up the price for product A. If you're talking about product B, pick up the price for product B. But don't mix and match them, because then you will waste some marks, okay? So what's that? Sales revenue, I think it comes up to what? 7,938,000. Yes. Nice, isn't it? Well, we're saying that this should be product B revenue as well. So product B revenue, which should be the same. So it equals product A revenue here. What we're going to do then is we're going to say the 7 million, massive, 7,938,000, like that, equals the number of units of B, which we don't know how many they are, multiplied by the selling price of B, which in part B we calculated as 61.25. Remember this one here that we already got? Yes? So we replace by the selling with the selling price we've calculated already, 61.25. And then of course from here, to find the units of B, we just have to divide the revenue, 7,938,000, by the selling price, and we're ready. So how much is that? Did anybody get the number of units already? Oh yes, you are correct. Well done. I'm pleased to hear that you managed to get the same as me, which is 129,000 units. Fantastic. So thank you very much, my friends, for watching this. I hope you found the exercise useful, and if you have any questions, you can always ask us. Stay tuned for another session. This will be on credit management. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye.